All right, welcome to the first emergency pod for Wash Boilers. Today, we're going to be going over the news that Isaiah Hill out of Pike High School in Indianapolis has signed with Purdue's class of 2027. So, pretty exciting news and excited to break it down. He's the first Purdue commit in the class of 2027. Number 8 in Sports Center Next 60 for class of 2027, ranked as their number 1 center. Number 13 in 247 Sports Composite, he's their number 2 center. Number 1 recruit in the class of 2027 from the state of Indiana. So this means that Purdue, for 2 years in a row now, has had the number 1 recruit from the state, given that Luke Ertl was ranked number 1 in 2026. He's Purdue's highest ever ranked recruit in the Matt Painter era. He takes that top spot from Caleb Swanigan. And then he chose Purdue over a couple of schools, most notably Louisville came on late, but it was always Purdue. And it seems like it had been for a while because he said today that Purdue had been recruiting him since he was in the 8th grade. So this has been a pretty long recruitment. And another thing he said today, per an ESPN article, he said, Matt Painter keeps it real. He is a hard worker who coaches to win. Off the court, he can be a funny guy, but you wouldn't know it. His plan is to help me develop as I help the team win and give me a chance at the NBA. And now this marks 9 out of 10 Purdue commits, the highest ones of all time, have all come since 2020. So we're definitely entering the golden age of Purdue basketball.
Yeah, so I feel like this for Purdue is kind of a two-pronged thing. It's huge for Purdue about what we've been doing in this in the 2020s, but it's also an indicator of where Purdue is compared to IU in the state. And there's a lot of stuff NIL related to that. There's a lot of stuff related to Purdue and Matt Painter, the consistency of our programs. But the biggest thing is, like you said, since 2020, 9 of our top 10 recruits of all time have come in the 2020s. That's ridiculous. I mean, that's actually dominating in the state compared to IU, who going through theirs, they've had some good recruits. None of them have really stayed or made an impact at IU the way that we've had the Braden Smiths and Edie's of the world, even though they aren't the top recruits. They don't have those guys coming in and making impacts. I think it's a huge, huge success for Purdue to be able to get a guy like this who very much so, I think, 10, 20 years ago would have been an IU guy, or at least maybe would have gone out of state, because he's probably a guy who's going to be an NBA player. He's probably a guy who wants to get developed, and I don't think Purdue used to have that reputation. This is kind of a question I want to pass on to you, but I mean, you're from the region, so I mean, Notre Dame doesn't have as much of an impact on basketball, but I don't know if you've grown up and you've seen a change in that Purdue-IU kind of recruiting rivalry.
Yeah, I think you look at IU obviously as maybe especially while I was growing up, they had already kind of like fallen off a little bit. But you look back at maybe the 90s and the 80s, especially in the 70s during the Bob Knight era, they were definitely beating out Purdue for the top guys and the top talent in the state. It was, your dream growing up as a kid to go play for Bobby Knight and the Indiana Hoosiers, and they were winning national championships. But yeah, really in the 21st century, and especially since Painter has taken over, that's slowly shifted towards Purdue. I think a school that maybe would have taken some prior top Indiana talent would maybe be a school like Kentucky. You look at someone like Greg Oden, who is also from Indianapolis, and he ended up going to Ohio State. So a lot of the top talent from in-state was going out of it, but now it seems like Purdue's brand has gotten strong enough to where they're just considering that. And you have to look at Isaiah Hill, and he's probably going to be a favorite for Indiana Mr. Basketball going into 2027. And if he wins Indiana Mr. Basketball for 2027, since 2021, that means over 50% of all Indiana Mr. Basketballs will have gone to Purdue. So I think Purdue probably passed IU maybe a decade ago in terms of in-state recruiting. And now it's finally getting into the realms of where we can keep talent from the in-state actually in Indiana and stop them from going to places like Kentucky or Kansas or Michigan or elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great point. It's indicative of where Purdue is as a program at this point, where we're not doing the transfer portal stuff. I mean, you had a whole topic about this on our last episode about what are the advantages of recruiting at Purdue. You don't get recruited over, and if you come here, you're going to get developed, and you have guys around you who are in a system where everybody's focused on winning basketball no matter what it takes. I mean, you can immediately see, and we'll see where this goes in the future, but a guy like TKR who was here for 5 years, I mean, he redshirted, he was here for that whole time. He developed, he had his opportunity as a junior to, lead the team, and he was successful with that. Then senior year had to change his focus on what he was doing. But you can see he played a type of archetype on the Purdue team because that's what it takes to win. I think when you have a guy like Isaiah Hill come in, who's probably going to be the leader of the team or maybe the best player of the team when he comes in, he has guys around him that will support him and make sure that he's going to be the best player. You're not going to go to Kentucky where you have 4 other 5 stars competing to get to the NBA. It's all a team focused on winning, focused on being together and making sure that we, can get as far as we can.
No, I agree. And I mean, you look at someone like Isaiah Hill, and he very well could be a one and done. But a good thing for him is that he's actually young for his grade. So he's going to be turning, I think, 17 going into his senior year. So when he gets to campus, he's only going to be 18. So that kind of projects well for maybe instead of just that 1 year, he does stay for 2 years. And when he's getting ready to go out into the NBA draft, as it seems like that is his end goal. I mean, he mentioned the NBA, he mentioned that. So he's probably not going to be a 4 year guy or with the new rules, a 5 year guy like some of the other recruits Purdue is bringing in. But it still does seem that he recognizes that, hey, even if I'm not going to be here for 4 years, because he probably doesn't need to be just based on his skill set right now, he's still going to take maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years to still develop. He still sees the advantage of going to a program like Purdue where, sure, maybe at Kentucky, and obviously, like you pointed out, it's no guarantee that you're going to play over the transfers or any of the European players that they bring over nowadays. You never know if you're going to be able to play, but maybe you're going to be spotlighted more. You might get more social media highlights of you just because you're committing to a larger fan base. But if you go to Purdue, you're going to be probably a part of more winning. Eventually, if you're still playing in March and those teams are sitting at home, that's where people see you. That's where you can make the most impact. And even if you're averaging 5 less points a game than you might be somewhere else, it's still advantageous. And NBA scouts are smart. Even if you're
Yeah.
not averaging X amount of points in college, they draft a lot of times based on potential. And I think Purdue is the best place for a lot of these guys to go and show their potential while still winning.
Yeah. And I mean, you make a good point about where I think Purdue had been in the past, where like maybe you didn't get talked about as much as obviously a Kentucky or a Kansas. And maybe that still is kind of the point. But I mean, at this day and age with Purdue, like they are one of the most talked about teams. We probably are going to be, even though we're going to be ranked low teens, maybe high 20s coming into next season, I think we're going to be one of the bigger storylines and teams to follow just because of our history in the 2020s. I think if you see that from Isaiah Hill perspective, it's like I can go here and I'll probably be talked about just as much as if I go to Kansas or somewhere because Purdue's going to be winning games. Like there's no reason Purdue's not going to make the tournament for the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, there's unless something catastrophic happens and this new tournament comes with 76 teams, there's no reason we shouldn't make it. And we have a history of kind of if we make it, we're going to win some games. I mean, we used to have, I think, and it's could come back to bite us. We kind of bucked
We
the
used to
trend of
lose in
being
the
that
first round a
upset at
lot.
least.
What?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what they maybe we changed. I don't know. But hopefully that's changed now. We're kind of a Sweet 16, maybe like guarantee every year. And if you're in Isaiah Hill, you can't get that at a lot of other schools.
No, I agree. And we talked about this point, like you mentioned on a previous episode, but this is why, even if you want so badly for the Braden Smiths and Carson Edwards and Jaden Ivies and Zach Edey's of the world to be the ones who bring Purdue a national championship. And you want that not only because you're obviously a fan and you want them to win, you want that for those players, especially nowadays where Purdue is one of the last kind of traditional programs where you have guys staying 4 years who are maybe from the local area. They're not random transfers or brought in from the Euro League or anything like that. So you want those players to win, but it's important to recognize all of those guys are the reason why an Isaiah Hill is even possible. And especially you mentioned, sure, like we said last time, you're a point guard and you see Braden Smith is now the all-time assist leader at this program and you want to go here. You see Carson Edwards March Madness run and you say, "Oh wow, that's a Purdue guard who people are still talking about to this day. March Madness Carson Edwards. Everyone knows who that is if you're a college basketball fan and everyone's seen the highlights. What you also have to recognize, and a lot of Purdue fans were not happy with this, one of the other things a player like, for example, Braden Smith provides is the Running Point podcast and certain things like that, where It's probably, in the moment, you don't want that, but you also have to recognize not every player who comes to Purdue is going to be perfectly bought into the team and they're only in it to win and they're only in it for whatever. These are 18, 19-year-old kids. They want a little bit of that fame too. That's what comes as being part of a really good basketball team. And if they go to the NBA, that's going to come as well. Especially in this NIL era, they're making money. They want to have those opportunities. Even though we don't love it, seeing something like that podcast where Braden was featured on a pretty large media company and he had his own show and he could do those kinds of things, especially in this NIL era, I think that is appealing to athletes. And maybe, they come in, they see that big wall of Nike shoe boxes that we make them take pictures in front of. Maybe that's
Suits to
cool.
work.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the fact that Purdue is a Nike school is huge. I will say that because I think that the non-Nike schools are at a huge disadvantage. So hopefully that continues. But I think that is a really big benefit in this NIL era.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like I've kind of highlighted everything about like why it's so important. It makes me this is kind of a separate thing that I just thought of, like what went wrong with the guy like Cannon Catchings or something. Like what
Yeah.
it kind of shows you the difference between maybe an Isaiah Hill where like he even mentions the getting developed. Like he knows that this dude's our highest rated recruit ever that we are going to get. And yeah, I feel like there's almost this kind of air that it's like, oh, I know I'm not guaranteed to start. I know I'm going to go there and I gotta work for it. I mean, obviously I hope he can come in and be that good immediately. But I think it's like a really good indicator for him that he's not having that kind of drama we would have had with the guy like Cannon Catchings, who's gone on to now be at his third or school or so, I think.
Yeah, I think with Catchings, I think a lot of it came down to just BYU. And as we've learned in this NIL era in both sports, in football, where they've joined the Big 12 and have immediately competed, and in basketball, where they're about to produce the number one pick in the NBA draft, they have NIL to burn. And that's how you compete in this type of
Yeah.
era. It's not a coincidence that IU football won a national championship once the transfer portal and NIL became a thing. They weren't winning that national championship with a bunch of kids from Fishers and Valparaiso and Fort Wayne. They brought in people because you can.
Yeah.
And schools like BYU and schools like IU are going to be able to do that, and good for them. But that's, you know, I think
I
that
think
the
that
catching situation
highlights
was BYU.
that highlights why it's so important that we're able to get a guy like Isaiah Hill, though. Like, I mean, clearly Purdue is not an NIL school. I mean, we just, at this point right now, maybe in the future, maybe we'll come get some tech billionaires that'll come in and start donating. But as of right now, it does not seem like that. So the fact we're able to, you know, keep this run going for Purdue without really any transfers. I mean, we get Caden Pierce, but, you know, we're not bringing in tons of guys through money. The fact we're able to keep this going at least for another, 4 years, it seems to be with Isaiah Hill and all the other guys we're bringing in is huge. I mean, that's just such a good thing for Purdue.
No, I agree. And I don't want to get too far ahead, but what this makes me think is that 2029, where the Final Four is in Indianapolis again, it almost seems like that's the next 2026 or 2024, where Purdue's going to reload all of the assets, everything they're going to need. Because you look at that point, junior year, Ertl, Weber, Rivers Knight, all of them, if the 5-5 goes through, victory lap, super senior, Jakari Harris and Benter and Jacobson and CJ Cox, obviously. And then potentially a sophomore year, Isaiah Hill. And you look at
Yeah.
some of the other recruits Purdue's going after in this class. Con Knippel's brother, Kager Knippel. You get him. He's a 4-star. He's also getting recruited by Duke. We beat out Duke for Caden Pierce. So if Purdue can start swimming in those waters and keep their development streak alive and Painter's system, there's really no cap to what this team could do and what Painter could lead Purdue to accomplish.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe that's our 4th title in a row at that point. Maybe we're going for the 4, Pete. I don't know.
Well, after we win this year with CJ Cox,
Yeah,
and then we'll win next year with Isaiah Hill's freshman year, and then you gotta win it at Indy, so you might as well three-peat.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Guys are going to stay. They're like, we got to stay for the Indy one. I mean, we got to repeat it again.
Yeah. I love West Lafayette. I can't leave it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that was a really good kind of quick discussion of everything. Super exciting. I don't know if there's any other recruits that maybe this kind of sets off a chain reaction of, oh, it seems like Purdue's class of 27 is kind of filling up. I know Purdue has a lot of offers out, in particular, like we mentioned with Kager up in Wisconsin, and then also people like Kevin Savage and Reese Alston, some point guards in the class, I believe from Texas and maybe Georgia. So a lot of potential news coming out real soon. So it's going to be really exciting to follow.
Let's keep the emergency pods hopefully for only good recruiting commits and
Yeah.
nothing else negative.
Yeah, the Cannon Catchins emergency pod for him decommitting would have been a
Yeah.
very sad affair. But
It worked out in
yeah,
the end.
it's true. That is true. All right. Well, thank you guys, and we'll see you for the next time.